Welcome to Fueling Your Legacy, hosted by Samuel Knickerbocker. Each week, we expose the faulty foundational mindsets of the past and rebuild a new, stronger foundation essential in creating your legacy. We've got a lot of work to do, so let's get started. Welcome back to Fuel Your Legacy podcast. We are excited for our guest today. We're going to be talking about health again, about how we can really maximize our potential and our energy and our confidence. And so we have Horvath on today, and she's specifically focused on helping women aged like 20 to 40, maybe 50 years old, really get the most out of their health so that they can actually perform the best in their entrepreneurial journey or just even as a mother, different things like that. So welcome, and I'm going to let you introduce yourself a little bit more.
Yep, so I'm Caitlin. I go by Caitlin Michelle Fit. That's kind of how I've always had my coaching business. So I started working with women about 3 years ago. I went to school for exercise science, and I did a bunch of business courses with online coaches who do fitness. So that's kind of how I got into it. I started my Instagram and changed it to a fitness Instagram about 4 years ago. And that's when I started posting a little bit about my journey and kind of the struggles that I went through when I first started. And I really just wanted to make women especially more aware about how they could live a healthy and sustainable lifestyle instead of doing all these fad diets that are posted all over social media nowadays. So I think especially for girls, it's really hard to figure out what the best route to go as far as having a coach or buying nutrition ebooks or all those kind of challenge things that people are posting out there. So I wanted to kind of create an environment for people to feel safe and to feel confident working with someone who actually has their best interests at heart.
Awesome. So when do you feel like you first knew what you wanted to do for a career?
So honestly, when I was in high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I went to school my first year for business because I was I'll just do business because everyone does business and whatever. At that point, I didn't even really start my fitness journey. So right out of high school, I had the worst habits. I was super unhealthy, drinking on the weekends, hanging out with a really bad crowd. I never played sports, was never athletic. All I did when I was younger was dance and gymnastics. That's all I did. So I was never a part of a team or anything. When I started getting into fitness, this was after I had kind of overcome an eating disorder. So after that, I knew that I wanted to do something that I could do for the long term and feel good about myself, feel confident, feel healthy, and portray that kind of lifestyle to other people. So once I started getting into that, I knew that it was something I wanted to study more and something I could change my major to in school. So that's when I changed my major to health and wellness. And that's kind of when I knew I didn't want to personal train people because I wanted to reach more people around the world. Whereas if you're a personal trainer, you're kind of limited to just people in one gym. So I knew that I wanted to reach as many people as I could, change as many lives as I could. And that's kind of when I started realizing it was something I could make a career out of.
And are you primarily online with your coaching?
Yeah.
It sounds like?
Yeah, everything's online.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you feel like, because I know you have quite a decent following on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Has that come gradually over the last 4 years, or is it was it pretty low and then something happened and spiked and you started getting a lot more followers?
So when I first started posting on Instagram, my biggest thing was how can more people see my page, and I decided I wanted to work with a few different photographers, network. So I think that getting my name out there when I first started my Instagram kind of helped build it. But other than that, consistently over the past 4 years, I either post every day, always topics on what my ideal client would want to be informed on, and really just connecting with other people in the fitness industry. So I have friends kind of all over the United States, some in California, some in Florida, some in Massachusetts. So I think connecting with people that are also in your field can kind of help you as far as building your brand, building your name, and having more people be able to see your page. So I think just being consistent with it, always posting content that people can relate to, definitely helped my page and engagement, I think. So yeah, I just think being real and genuine and being able making people be able to see that the journey that you've gone on is also real and that you've also gone through struggles. So being relatable and going through things that other people are going through and being able for them to see it.
Yeah, I think I found something similar where it's just like really the amount of vulnerability you can infuse into your relationship with your audience or with your ideal client.
Yeah.
The way it's been said a lot of times from different coaches that I've worked with is your ideal client really is you.
Mm-hmm.
It really is you like 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago.
Yeah,
that's your ideal client. And so some people struggle. They're like, how do I find my ideal client? How do I know who I'm supposed to be marketing to? Your ideal client's you. And so like they have the same worries, same concerns, same things that you have or that you would have in given a certain set of circumstances. And so if you are marketing to that person, you know what you would want to hear. And I get told this often in my business, like, oh, use this type of lettering or use this type of message. I'm like, that I could, but like if I saw that type of messaging, I would turn it off. Like I would, if I'm marketing to myself, I would not use that. Now, might it be a good thing to do? Maybe. But for me, that's not me. And it would be out of integrity for me to use it. And so that's just an interesting thing from a business perspective to just touch on. Gaining the following over a period of time comes from consistency. And that's going to be the same in your health, consistency. And then making sure that you're actually talking to the right person.
Yep, exactly. And I think that also because I did come from like an eating disorder background, a lot of people can relate to me, especially because they've also come from that kind of background, or maybe not even an eating disorder, but maybe restricting foods or feeling like they need to do unnecessary amounts of working out to achieve the body that they want. So I think that there are a lot of people that are like misinformed. So seeing someone who's overcome an eating disorder has been able to give real life women transformations and be able to sustain a healthy lifestyle, I think that just kind of differentiates you from another coach or someone that's putting information out there that might not be as relatable. So definitely talking about real struggles and not really sugarcoating anything is definitely huge.
That's awesome. So with eating disorder, I'm curious. I've had different times in my life where I've thought I had an eating disorder, or I don't know if I even still don't. I just don't eat very often. Like honestly, a lot of my life I thought it was a waste of time. I'm starting to change my mind. I'm reading enough books.
Right.
Like, okay, I actually have to think about this. But like, what do you feel like caused you to go into the eating disorder mentality or habits?
So my eating disorder, I would consider borderline anorexia. I wasn't throwing up or binging or anything like that. It was more so me just restricting food in general. So intentionally,
okay.
Yes. It wasn't something where, like you said, you're not sure if you're eating enough. That's something you're unsure of, where I was sure of what I was doing. So mine was intentional for sure. I think that the reason why it really all started was social media had become kind of like bigger at that time. So when I was in high school, I'll be 25 this year. So when I was in high school, Instagram had just become a thing, but it was just a place for people to like post pictures of them, maybe like out on the weekends or pictures with their friends. And there wasn't really influencers. So as time went on, influencers became a thing. You would see all these people that looked really good. And that's when the comparing started to happen. So you would constantly be comparing yourself to people on social media, and your friends would get around and be like, oh my God, I want to look like her. How does she have this body? What does she do? And my friend at that time actually had an eating disorder as well. So hanging around someone that had an eating disorder already, plus that kind of put me into that mentality like, okay, well, maybe I could look this way if I do what she's doing. So it kind of was, I was not a confident person to begin with at that time. So for her habits to rub off on me was very easy. So the more I hung out with her, the more I caught on to her habits and what she was doing with her food. We'd go out, eat very like salad, just plain salad, nothing on it, maybe chicken, you know what I mean? So it was just very plain stuff. And looking back, it's like, I don't even know how I was able to do that for so long, because it was such an unhealthy and unsustainable lifestyle. But it's really sad because people actually go through these things on a daily basis. And they don't think it's bad. They think that it's going to allow them to have their dream body or whatever it is that their goal is. So that was a really hard time for me, just because I didn't think there was anything wrong with what I was doing until people around me started saying, are you okay? Like, you don't look good. Like, you look like you've lost a lot of weight. Like, they were concerned. It wasn't like, oh my God, you look great. It was, are you okay? So that's when I knew I needed to make a change. I knew that I didn't want to be hungry my whole life. I didn't want to restrict my whole life. I didn't want to do cardio every day for an hour. So that's when I started kind of educating myself, just through articles online, like information like that. I tried to steer away from social media because that was a huge cause of why I kind of went down that dark path. And that's when I changed my major at school also. And I was like, why not educate myself more with what I'm studying at school and outside of school? And that's kind of when my life went from super unhealthy to super healthy, because I changed my mindset from restrictive to how can I thrive and how can I feel good and how can I live a long life and feel good about myself where I don't need to be starving every day.
Yeah, for sure. So what I'm hearing is that the main trigger of change from to you're in this self-destructive mentality of purposely restricting what you're eating. Yeah. And then you shifted out of that. And the main cause of shifting out of like, okay, this is not good, was others recognizing their concern for you.
Exactly. Realizing that I wasn't getting compliments, I was getting concerns.
Okay. So I've had friends who were actually like anorexic, bulimic, like eating disorders. Sometimes it doesn't always come across that way when you're acting concerned.
Yeah.
It's
almost like you take
offensive,
it. Yeah.
Because they think that they should be getting compliments that they look good.
That they look good, right.
And then they take it the other way and they kind of can go deeper into that. So what, like I personally never dealt with that aspect of the mindset. What in the mindset helped you, or do you feel like enabled you to take it as like actual concern rather than maybe to dive deeper into it?
I think probably like once my family started talking to me about it, because a lot of the time friends will say things, but it's easier for your family to be like brutally honest with you rather than like maybe a friend being like, what have you been doing to lose weight or this and that, where your family, or my family at least, would come to me and be like, what have you been doing? Like, you've lost so much weight, you don't look good, you look sick, like what have you been doing? Because basically my eating disorder kind of took place from maybe like fall time through the winter, and during that time you're wearing like heavy clothes, sweatshirts, like in Connecticut it's cold, so everyone wears winter jackets, and I honestly, probably no one really saw my full body until I was like springtime, and that was my brother's like high school graduation, and I was in a dress and everyone was just like, oh my God, because I did lose the most weight that winter time. So even I think for myself to see like myself in like a tank top and shorts, like I was like, whoa, like what did I do? You know what I mean? It was kind of like shocking. It was almost shocking to me too. I knew that it was a big issue. And I think just like, I'm really close with my family. So knowing that like what I was doing was upsetting them made me realize too, like, I don't want to upset people around me, and I don't want there to be something wrong with me. Like, I want to be happy like everyone else, you know? And I don't want to be the person that people think needs help, you know? So I wanted to get myself out of that. And like a lot of the time people aren't able to get themselves out of it without help. I never had help. I just kind of had the help of like my family supporting me, wanting me to be healthy, and my close friends at that time. So I think having like a support system when you are going through something like that is huge. Because a lot of the time people don't have that, and they do end up having to go and actually get professional help. So I am grateful that I didn't have to go that route, but it definitely could have gone there if I didn't make that change and want to make that change for myself.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the main things, is the desire to make that change for herself or for yourself, like making sure that you're always focusing on how can you become your best self.
Yep.
You thought you wanted one thing, and when it became clear that that's not what you wanted, then you were able to transition out of that. That's a huge thing in any area of your life. Sometimes you're going towards somewhere and you don't know where you're going.
Yeah.
And then you get there and you're just like, oh wow, this is not at all what I intended.
It's shocking, yeah.
And what came to my mind is like, you must not have been getting enough hugs, because like you can tell by hugging somebody if they're like
getting smaller,
if they're getting so too thin. So make sure you're hugging people, man.
Yeah, that's
people.
the key right there.
That's the key. Hug people, and then you'll know like, well, don't go judge people.
Yeah.
But okay, so now that you've shifted that was a few years ago that you.
That was probably 5 years ago that I had gotten out of my eating disorder.
Okay. So what is your life like now from well, let's just talk about pure physical for right now before we go into that mental and emotional. But what's your life like now that you've chosen to make health a priority in your life?
So to me, health is really about balance and finding out what works best for you. That's going to make you feel good and not stress about eating that cookie or whatever it might be. So for me personally, like I started working out probably 5-6 years ago, like religiously all the time. That's when it became a lifestyle for me. Like now I could never imagine my life without the gym because it's just a part of my life and it never won't be. So for me, I started just doing like strength training when I first started working out. And then that transitioned into CrossFit and Olympic lifting and then back to bodybuilding. So I've always had like something that I wanted to learn or try that was like out of my element. Because I kind of held myself back from trying so many things, even like in high school. Like I said, I never did sports. It was always like a confidence thing. Like I always thought I wasn't good enough or I wouldn't know how to do it. So to me, it was like, all right, I've never done CrossFit. Let me do it. I've never tried to do the Olympic lifting thing. Let me do it. And then after all that, I was like, I knew that I just loved bodybuilding and strength training because it made me feel good. It made me feel confident. And I felt confident knowing that I could teach other people how to do that too. So that's really where I'm at now. And to me, like I have done like the tracking macros and all that stuff. So I'm at a point in my life now where I feel confident where I don't need to track macros and I can still hit my numbers or whatever they are like consistently. And I know what my body likes and what my body doesn't like. I think that's like a lot of trial and error too. So I don't think that you need to track macros your whole life. I think that for someone who wants to lose weight or gain muscle, tracking macros is the best tool to use in the beginning because you're really going to get a good idea of what kind of numbers your body needs to see results. But I think after you've done that for a certain amount of time, you can definitely live a healthy lifestyle without having to track any numbers and do like the 80-20 lifestyle. So 80% of your foods would be clean, 20% would be maybe like a small treat here and there. But like I said, everything to me is about balance. So if you're not living that kind of lifestyle, that's where people start to rebound to like their old unhealthy habits or start restricting because they had a crappy weekend. So to me, I think balance is huge. I think restriction is the one thing that really makes people fall back into their old ways. That's why when you do these like 30-day detox things or 30-day booty guide or whatever is out there, like people will do it for 30 days and then they're like, okay, well now what do? I did it, so I'll just go back to what I was doing before. And then they go back to their old habits because they're not doing something that's sustainable. Right. So sustainability to me and balance is, I think, the two keys that really allow people to fall into this lifestyle and keep it consistent.
Awesome. So that's like more of the physical side. Now this is a concern that maybe we'll just touch on and then we'll go to the emotional side. But I've heard from some women who are scared to do strength training because they're scared they're gonna like end up with these like big bulging muscles and just turn into.
Oh yeah, I hear that all the time.
Like you can go see her on her Instagram. She's not this big bulging muscly woman. She's fit, but she's not a big bulging muscly woman.
Right,
so,
right.
What's the mindset of like? Obviously there's like the facts, right? Because you do strength training and so very few women are going to turn into that. But like, what's the mental process of walking somebody, say we're sitting here and I'm a woman and I'm thinking, man, I just don't want to do strength training because of
I'm scared of looking like a man or something.
What would you tell that person?
So I would tell someone like that from someone so I weigh probably 140 pounds now. I'm 5'6". That's considered overweight, like over a healthy BMI, as for a doctor to say. But that's not because I'm overweight, it's because I've built muscle and that's just how, versus when I started working out, my lowest weight I ever was 103 pounds. So 103 pounds at 5'6" versus 140 pounds is a huge difference. Now I look totally different than I did when I was skinny, but I have muscle and I have, I guess you could say, a toned look. And everyone that comes to me, as far as women, say, I want to look toned. And people think toned means losing fat. But if you have no muscle underneath, you're not going to look toned. So if you were a woman sitting next to me right now and they were saying, I'm scared to strength train, I don't want to look like a man, I would say the only way that you're going to get that toned look is if you allow your body to strength train and resist weight, that's what strength training is. And you will grow muscle, you will build muscle, and then you will have a toned look. I think that people have this idea that as soon as you touch a barbell or a dumbbell, you're just going to turn into a man. And I'm like, no, that's not the case. Like, I can back squat over 200 pounds. I can deadlift over 200 pounds. Like, I'm strong. I feel good. It's like you feel powerful when you're lifting weights. And I think that people are just scared to do that because they link it to this fad where only men lift weights and women should just do Pilates and yoga and all this stuff. But that's like the missing key there is the weights, is the strength training, is the bodybuilding, is anything weight resistant is going to help give you the look that all these women want. And I think that there's no need to be scared. I understand why it's scary at first because I was the same way. As soon as I stepped foot in a gym and I was like, oh my God, what do I do? Like, I never had a personal trainer or anything when I started. I just kind of learned from like my mom or my dad, or they would just tell me to go in and try this and that. And I'd start piecing together like workouts and stuff. But yeah, I just think that that's a huge myth and that no one should be scared to do something that's ultimately going to better them, you know?
Yeah, I completely agree. I, as somebody who occasionally goes to the gym, not as often as I should, I'm getting better.
Yeah.
2 days in a row.
There you go.
I'm winning. But the women who are there, there's like maybe 1% of them, if even that are like
in the weight room.
They've got muscles on them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, everybody else is doing like the same workouts and they're not ripped. So they probably are doing something else on the side that's supplementing. Maybe,
yeah.
to help them get like
to that point.
Shredded, vein popping, ripped, right?
Yeah, I think there's obviously like a point where people take it to like extremes and start doing other things like drugs and steroids or whatever else. So yeah, when you do see people like that, when people see women that do look like that, like insane, like ripped, like super jacked, they see one woman that looks like that and they're like, oh my God, that's what I'm going to look like if I lift weights. And I'm like, no, that's what you're going to look like if you are probably lifting for 2 to 3 hours a day, taking some sort of steroid drug or something, and eating literally as clean as you possibly could 24/7.
With like 3% body.
Exactly. But that's once again not sustainable. Those people will not look like that forever. And I can tell you that they probably aren't very happy at the end of the day because they probably are kind of hungry and they probably are kind of tired. And you can't take steroids or drugs forever. So again, not a lifestyle, something that's temporary.
Sure. So that's more of like, I just wanted to hit on that and make sure that we address that because I know a large portion of my audience is women. And I can see that. I've heard that from friends of mine and people that I've worked with that are concerned about that. So I want to get that. But let's shift into like the emotional benefits of exercise and how that can really transform or help you with a lot of like anxiety, depression, and low confidence, things like that. So just speak to that for a minute.
Absolutely. So I think that, for example, if you're going through a hard time, maybe that's a breakup, maybe you lost your job, maybe you lost a family member, there's always something that you're going to be overcoming. I've gone through a lot of like traumatic events in my life. I lost a family member to suicide. I've had friends pass away in high school. Like, everyone's gone through things. So I think that there always needs to be some sort of outlet for you to get through these hard times, because if we are just kind of sitting and moping around, eating like crap, sitting in the dark, watching movies, that's not going to make us feel better. But I do think that once you start incorporating really any sort of exercise into your life, even going outside for a walk in the sun, like, you're going to feel better. So I think that moving your body and challenging yourself are really the keys to like distracting yourself from other things that might be going on in your life that are causing you stress. Or maybe you have 6 kids and you're like, holy crap, I just need some time for me. Maybe that moving or that 30 minutes of exercise or going for a walk or going to take a spin class or going to do a quick strength training routine at the gym will give you that little boost that you need. And you'll come home feeling better than you would if you did kind of just sit around. So I think movement is huge as far as feeling good. Our bodies are meant to move. You know what I mean? Like, our bodies aren't just meant to be like stationary.
Yeah, that brings up a good point. I haven't thought about as much like the lighting in your house, even though, like I served a 2-year mission for my church in Scotland and Ireland, and I mean it's naturally like overcast and you lose a lot of sunlight.
Yeah.
Like, it comes up at 10 and goes down at 3. Like
Right.
there's not a lot of sunlight.
Yeah.
There, but what almost invariably when you have some of these other missionaries who are getting depressed, getting anxious, having mental issues, went over to their house, they would have the windows all shut.
Oh
They
yeah.
would have like blankets over them. And I did this at one point because also during the summertime, it's like, if you don't black out your room, you don't sleep because there's light.
Right,
it's almost
right.
like the northern lights where it's just like, it's light.
Super bright, yeah.
Yeah, it's only dark for like 3 hours,
Okay.
4 hours, and it doesn't get really dark. It's
Yeah.
just like duskish. So in those moments, we would cover up our windows, but then during the winter, they wouldn't uncover them, and then they get mega depressed and go into these deep things. So I think that's another thing. Are you letting light into your house? Are you letting light into your soul, and making sure you're getting that connection and that interaction with the outside world?
Absolutely.
It's really easy to just, especially, and my wife is basically at home most of the time right now with our 6-week-old baby.
Oh yeah.
And she's breastfeeding, she's doing all the things, but it's like she sits in a house.
Yeah.
A lot of the time.
And being not mobile, especially, like really does put a damper on you. And I think that, like, even if you live in a place where, like even in Connecticut for us, gets dark around like 4 when winter first comes, and it's really rough. I get really bad seasonal depression personally. That's why I need to be in like a warm climate to feel good. Somewhere where there's a lot of sun, like that's just, to me, like good vibes is the sun, and being able to be outside and like really soak in like the fresh air. Obviously when you can't do that in the wintertime, when it is cold and it does get dark earlier, that's when I go to the gym later in the day to get like the bright lights and to sweat and to like feel my heart racing, you know, because if I'm in my house and it's dark at 4 o'clock, like, and I'm not doing anything besides working, of course, like it can get really depressing, honestly. So I think getting out and just finding things to do that you can move your body and be around other people, especially just have like a community of people that are doing the same thing as you, and just people to socialize with is huge too, because when you're isolated, like, and you're not getting that social aspect of your life and you're not moving, you're missing out on 2 keys right there. So I think that's huge, especially as far as like living somewhere where you're not getting a lot of daylight.
Okay, so when you're coaching women from a fitness and health standpoint, you're coaching women all over the country and sometimes out of the country.
Yep.
How are you helping them get that social aspect of working out? And like, are they going to the gym and doing these workouts by themselves, or are you helping them connect with or encouraging them to find a workout buddy at the gym, somebody that they're working with?
Yeah, so a lot of the women I work with will either, some of them go with like their husbands, or they'll drag like their sister, or some of them still live at home, so they'll go with their mom. But a huge thing with the women that I work with is we all connect with each other. So whether or not they're going to the gym alone, they can still come back home at night and tell us about their workout. So I think it's just about being able to talk to people that are going to cheer you on, essentially, and support you on your journey. Because especially for me, I did it by myself in the beginning, and it was kind of lonely. And I was like going to the gym by myself, and I was just kind of like, oh, like, I don't have anyone to talk to. Like, who am I, like, what am I really doing this for? Like, no one else is doing this. And then once I started getting more gym friends, like that's when I was more motivated to get in there and be like, what are you guys doing today? And stuff like that. So I think that having people to at least talk to about your goals, as far as, especially on your fitness journey, that can support you, I think that's awesome. And just being able to have a friend that you can take with you and share the same routine with, and really just having like, support system.
That's awesome. So now that's all kind of present and current, like right now. So solutions, and also like why it would be important. Turning long-term, like when you're thinking of legacy and why this is important, how do you, when you're coaching your people and you're working with these people, how do you help them see the vision of health and the vision of what this can do and impact them in the long term?
So for me, since I was saying I work with women like ages between 20, 40, 50, obviously they're all at different stages in their life. So the girls that are younger, like maybe closer to their 20s, something I would like to teach them is obviously to they're younger, so they can start this now. They don't have to live an unhealthy lifestyle until they're 50 and then decide to make a change. So I want to teach the younger girls that they're starting at a time that's crucial for them to turn this into a lifestyle, where maybe the women that are 40 or 50, they've already been engaging in these unhealthy habits probably their whole life. So for them, my goal is to obviously teach them and implement these things with them so that they can pass that down to their kids. Since obviously they're at a different point in their life than the girls that are younger, their goals might be a little bit different too, since they do have families. So something for me would be to obviously teach these women ways that they can live a lifelong healthy lifestyle, so that way when their kids are growing up, they can pass the same thing down to them.
Yeah, that's an important thing, is that I think like when you're growing up, when your kids are growing up, how are you going to be there for them? And for me, I'm the 7th of 11 kids.
Oh, wow.
My mom, she's going to be 60, I think, really close to it before my youngest brother's even 18. So she's like a grandma 13 or 14 times over,
right?
Before her youngest child's even out of the home. And so that's something that that's very likely to happen in a lot of cases. And statistically right now, the average age just keeps rising.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can take care of our health, there's a good chance we live into 100 years old. And so how are we going to die young, right? How are we going to make sure that we kept our health up so we were able to get the most out of our life instead of getting old and not be able to worry about it. Yeah, having to worry at 70, but still live till you're 100. Like 30 years, just think about that. You're not 30 years yet. I'm not 30 years old yet. I can't imagine 30 years of living on medication in a home because I didn't take care of my health.
And that's what I was just going to say is a lot of the time people will say, oh, well, it's too expensive to eat healthy. It's too expensive to go to the gym. It's too expensive to invest in a health coach. But what's actually more expensive is the health bills that you'll have to pay down the road. So would you prefer to invest in yourself now for the better, or would you rather wait and then basically pay the price when you're sick, paying your medical bills? So that's kind of like another thing that I'm a strong believer in, is investing in yourself. And if you can't invest in yourself now, how are you going to take care of yourself one day when you're potentially sick? And what will your kids do when you are sick? Yeah, no, exactly. It's huge. I mean, from a financial perspective, when I'm coaching somebody through finances, there's a phrase that I love. I don't know who I first heard it from, but it's a good phrase. And it's, if you're not willing to sacrifice for what you want in the future, if you're not willing to sacrifice now, then what you want in the future is going to become your sacrifice. Yeah. And that's totally true. That's the truth. Like, some people are unwilling to sacrifice maybe that extra 10, 20, 30, 40 minutes with their family right now, because they think, oh, I need that extra 20 minutes I need that time to, what are we doing? Probably watching relax
Netflix,
or go watch a movie.
Probably watching a movie. And the reality is, you're probably not watching a movie. You probably have the TV on and you're playing on yourself.
Or your kids are on their phones anyway.
So you're probably not actually spending quality time with them. And what the danger is, though, yes, you sacrificed your future health often for that quality time and scare quotes, right? But it's not really quality time. And then you're sacrificing your future health in years of your life by not taking care of your health. Yep.
Instead of investing maybe just that extra half hour a day, even 15 minutes going on a walk, like that's something that could potentially benefit you in the future. So I think, just paying attention to the small things that in turn equate to the big things is important, because if you're not paying attention to your health now and you choose to pay attention to your health when you're 60, it might be too late at that point. Perhaps to avoid disease and illnesses. Obviously, you can always implement health into your life. Even people that are 70, 80, and 90 are implementing health into their life. But I just think that it's important to pay attention to the things that matter now, so you can avoid the things that can go wrong in the future.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's exactly right. And I hope that that's one of the main messages we get out of this, is that these habits of health, they're habits of health, but also we have to get in the right mindset of like, well, one, doing the habits are going to help you get into the right mindset, but also sometimes we just have to believe that that's going to happen. So creating a mindset, this is not a diet. It's not a short-term thing. We're doing this long-term. This is a lifestyle change we're making, and we're choosing into for the betterment of ourselves and for our souls and for our family, right?
Yep.
What we're going to contribute back to the next multi-generations.
Yep.
So a few more questions here. What would be if you had to reference two books or say these two books have helped me either overcome your eating disorder or grow in your fitness or in your self-confidence, what 2 books would you say have been the most beneficial for you?
So funny enough, I am actually more of like a podcast person.
Okay, that's fine.
I can't like absorb information the same way as I do from like a book versus a podcast or even like YouTube, honestly. So when I was going through my eating disorder, I watched a lot of girls on YouTube who went through kind of the same thing. So I resorted to that kind of like as an outlet, and then podcasts became like bigger for me when I was already over my eating disorder. So I would say honestly the biggest things that helped me was YouTube, seeing girls on YouTube living like a healthy lifestyle, exercising. I would see like how much food they were eating and how little I was eating. So it would kind of be like a resource for me in a way to see people that were already on the road that I wanted to go on. And these were people that I could look up to, where at the time I feel, or even nowadays too, girls look up to the wrong kind of people, especially when you're young and vulnerable. Like you don't really know at that point, like, all right, who's good and who's not. Like she looks good, so maybe I'll just do what she's doing. But like I said, I was probably 19 when I went through my eating disorder. So YouTube was huge for me then, just watching people on there, kind of like doing the online coaching, living the healthy lifestyle, eating all the good food, working out. And that's kind of what inspired me to start getting in the gym and stop and quit the old lifestyle that I was living.
That's cool. And just out of curiosity, have you ever reached out to any of those people that you used to watch and tell them your story and like what watching them did for you?
Honestly, maybe one of them I did, because I ended up doing like a fitness photo shoot, like my first one ever, like 2 years into when I was working out. And the photographer that I worked with had just recently worked with one of the girls that I had been watching on YouTube for a while. So I had reached out to her saying like, oh, hey, like just want to let you know, like I've been following your journey for so long, and like you really helped me get through a lot of hard times. And I just recently shot with, his name's Samuel. I recently just shot with Samuel.
It's a good name.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest.
And
right?
she was like, and she answered, and she's pretty big on Instagram. And so we had like a brief conversation, and it was just cool to like see that the people that were putting this information out there were like real, genuine people too. And yeah, it was pretty cool. But social media is funny in that aspect, because a lot of the people that you look up to, like you think they're on this huge pedestal, and then you reach out to them and you're like, oh, she's just like a regular person, like we all are, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah, and I think that's important, because like as you go through your journey and you create success, you can do that too.
Whatever floats your boat.
Yeah, as you create success in your life, being willing to share that, you don't know who's watching, you don't know who's like potentially life you're saving by you choosing to share the information it's just your normal day, it's your journey, but by you sharing your journey, that is leading people to believe in themselves. I have a whole ebook about specifically this topic, why it's important to win wildly financially in your life, and what that does for everybody around you, your haters, your supporters, your family, your church, your country, your community, all these things, what it does for all those people when you choose to step into your greatness and you choose to really not just do it, but be willing to share what you have accomplished. And it's cool because now that's made a ripple effect. Those girls, those women who had that transition, who you looked up to,
have transitioned that to me, and now I can make that transition to women as well.
Yeah, and now you're paying it forward, and you're going and sharing that. And honestly, I think that's the story of a true, like, somebody who's just living their passion. Somebody sparked their passion. Somebody believed in them, and because of that, then they were able to go on and help other people. So that's awesome. Yeah,
definitely. I think life too is all about like sharing knowledge and experiences. And if the knowledge and experiences that you've had could potentially help someone, I think those experiences should be shared for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know that there's too many experiences that can't help somebody.
Yeah.
Even the bad
ones. Yeah.
Especially the bad ones, because those are the ones that like you actually learn what not to do.
Exactly. Yeah.
You probably get more education from the bad experiences than you
definitely do
from the good experiences. But with that said, but let's this is the final question here. Is there anything else you'd want to share before we ask you the final question?
I think that honestly, if I've taken anything, I mean, I've taken a lot over the years away, positive and bad, but I think for any women out there that are listening to this that have kind of held back from taking that next step in their life. I think that now is the time where you should just let go of that fear and just do it and just dive in full force, because all these little setbacks that our minds tell us to do are the reason why you're not moving forward and the reason why you're not seeing results and you're not in the place you want to be. So I think if there's anyone out there that feels this right now, that it's time to kind of take that next step and push aside your fears and just dive in.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. And then just reiterate again, where can people find you, and you can offer them anything you'd like?
Yeah, so my Instagram is Caitlin Michelle Fit. That's also my business coaching name is just Caitlin Michelle Fit. That's where all my girls are coached. And on Facebook, it's Caitlin Horvath. And the same thing, all of my same content is posted on Facebook and Instagram.
Okay, do you want to spell your last name for everybody, just to make sure that Caitlin's pretty, well, I guess there's a lot of ways to spell Caitlin.
Yeah.
But hers is generic, so just like.
Yep, it's Caitlin, and then Horvath is Horvath.
Perfect.
V, not a B.
V is in Victor. Okay,
yes.
Perfect. Yeah, just so people know where to find you. That's perfect. So the final question is, now we're going to fast forward, right? 3 generations from now. Your great-great-great-grandchildren are talking about you and telling their friends about what your legacy is. What do you want them to be saying? What do you want them to remember you?
Honestly, well, I hope that they could say that their great-grandma or grandma or whatever lived to be 100 because she chose to live this type of lifestyle. And I hope that they're all able to say that I passed down to generation ways that your life can be enhanced because of health and wellness. And I hope that every woman that I'm able to coach in the future, and women that I'm currently coaching, I hope that they can implement the same to all their loved ones.
Awesome. Cool. Well, I know you'll do it, because funny story, just really briefly. I actually had been friended with you on Instagram somehow. I don't know, because I follow
prior to this. Oh, okay.
And then because I follow and unfollow people. That's what I do. If I don't see them engaging on my platform,
you just let them go.
Yeah. If they're going to engage, cool. But if they're not, then that's
bye-bye.
Okay. Obviously, I'm not. If I'm not adding value to them, then that's cool.
Right.
I'm trying to find my crowd, but then I went back and I was like, oh yeah, I've actually been friends with her before. So
that's funny.
I refriended you.
Oh, cool.
No,
I'm glad I made the list.
No, it's interesting, the people that you meet and that you never know. Right?
Oh yeah, definitely. And it's weird too, because it's like even at 10X when I was there the past couple of weekends ago, it's funny because I feel like a lot of people that I was following or people that followed me were all at this event, and it's just like, oh, like I could have been scrolling and seen this person, and then it's just like there they are, The world is very small and we think it's very big. It's not.
Yeah, that is definitely what I learned from when I got on Instagram 6 months ago. That's almost 7 months now.
Oh wow, so you're like
I'm
new to it. Yeah,
super fresh. Super fresh to the whole thing. And Facebook, I wasn't really active on there either until about 6 months ago.
Yeah, so Facebook is a newer thing for me as far as my business stuff for sure.
It's all a learning experience, but it is interesting. I was living in Utah, just thinking, I'm gonna keep growing my business here, and then I signed up for Instagram and saw. I was like,
oh yeah, wow. I can work with people anywhere.
There's a whole world out there.
Yeah,
of people
billions and billions of people.
That I need to be able to construct a message that can help and serve them. And that's really one of the things that motivated me to even start a podcast.
Yeah,
I want to be able to have an impact. I want to be able to share what I've learned with everyone.
Yeah,
not just yes, I love working in finance, but with that, I'm restricted to certain areas of where I can help people.
Yeah, and life has so many different areas, so
sure.
It's why not touch on as many as you can.
Yeah, exactly. So awesome. Well, thank you so much. And if anybody wants to tag themselves, take a picture, a snapshot of you listening to this, tag it, myself in it, or Caitlin Horvath. Or if you're doing it on Instagram, it's Caitlin Michelle Fit.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Then we'll give you a shout out. If you want to direct message me and show me that you did it, then and tell me a little bit about your business. And when I give you a shout out on the next episode, then I can actually give you a little bit of light and help people get more of you. I want to give back in any way that I can and help you guys accomplish your guys' dream and your purpose as you guys help me accomplish mine. So let's do that. Take a screenshot. And thanks so much. Definitely go on to iTunes or Google Play or Stitcher, wherever you're listening to this, and give it a 5-star review. And then also just leave a nice little comment of what you learned and maybe create a discussion on Facebook or Instagram. So have a great day. And thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Thanks.
Okay, we'll catch you next time on Fuel Your Legacy.
Woo.
Thanks for joining us today. If what you heard resonated with you, please like, comment, and share on social media. Tag me so I can give you a shout out on the next episode. And thanks to all those who have left a review. It helps spread the message of what it really takes to build a legacy that lasts. Catch you next time on Fueling Your Legacy.